Hello there, and welcome back to Season 4 and Episode 1 of the Gardener Ben podcast, brought to you in association with Peterbilt's Roses, winner of 30 Chelsea Gold medals and creating timeless roses since 1968. Go online and shop at www.peterbiltsroses.com now. Well, it's been a few weeks since we wrapped up Season 3, and the weather here in the UK has been absolutely faultless for weeks on end. Beautiful, glorious sunshine and temperatures reaching right up into the early 20s. So I've been making the most of things. In between writing my book, I've been out in the garden doing lots of interesting bits and pieces. I hope you've been outside and enjoyed your gardening spaces too. I'd love to catch up with you this week and tell you what's been going on in the garden. However, that's going to have to wait till next week, because this week I have a really interesting conversation that was actually filmed several weeks ago that I'd like to share with you. It features one of my personal favourite TikTok and Instagram accounts, which you could classify as being a little bit of an internet sensation. Amassing hundreds of thousands of followers over the last year, I'm joined this week by that Glasgow witch, who is actually called Geo. The conversation was incredibly interesting and recorded over the phone a few weeks ago, and I can't wait to share the account with you. If you don't already follow Geo on social media, please do go head across to Instagram or TikTok and follow that Glasgow witch now. She started her internet journey and sharing her practices online on social media as a way of connecting with her daughter and sharing her greater practices with the rest of the world, with a view to create a video library of things that her daughter could use when she was out and about to ground her and feel close to her mother during her everyday tasks. Rooted in tradition, practice and spirituality, Geo shares almost daily some really wonderful and mindful practices that you can bring to your everyday life to offer you a little bit of grounding and routine in everything that you do. That Glasgow Witch's account first came to my attention on Instagram via my husband Mark, who shared with me last Christmas a practice that she had put online called 13 Magical Nights. As you know, I've had quite the journey through personal therapy, EDMR, and moving my practices more into a spiritual plane to give me grounding, stability and purpose in my everyday life. 13 Magical Nights enabled me to really process an awful lot of the things that I was struggling with. The practice basically involved writing down 13 things that you wanted to achieve that felt maybe a little unachievable, out of reach. For me, the focus, as always, is always surrounding positivity and my own personal self-image. So a lot of mine focused around problems that I've been having mentally about that. Basically, you write down these 13 things, fold them up into little pieces of paper and little squares and place them in a bowl. Every night over Christmas, of the 12 nights of Christmas, you actually take them outside and set fire to each one individually, by chance leaving one remaining in the bowl. Committing the other 12 that the universe will actually deal with these things for you, you are then left to focus on one simple issue. This I found really mindful and really quite moving. The one that I was left with that I had written down I'm going to share with you now, and simply read, I am enough. Something that I've actually struggled with a term of quite substantially over the last 40 years. But it was a really moving experience, meaning that I felt very much that I could deal with this one thing, committing the other 12 during the 12 magical nights to actually be dealt with by the universe. Very recently, she also shared with us another practice, which was actually for something called liquid luck. A practice basically bringing together some very basic kitchen essential ingredients, mindfully preparing them and placing them into a saucepan of water and boiling them on your hob, basically allowing the steam to infuse and invigorate your home, and then you are left with a sweet and sticky sugar syrup, which you can use as basically a drink or tonic should you wish. It basically tastes a little bit like cola. Another really nice grounding mindful practice which we've made part of our everyday lives here at North Lodge. I really hope that you enjoy our incredibly interesting conversation with Geo, known as that Glasgow witch. Today on the Gardener Ben podcast, we're changing direction just a little bit from our normal horticultural content, and I'm joined by an account from TikTok and from Instagram, which I absolutely adore. That Glasgow witch. Welcome along, Geo. How are you?
I'm lovely, Ben. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure to follow you on Instagram, and I'm so happy to be speaking to you.
It's the pleasure is all mine. Now, obviously, I this is always the awkward part of the conversation as I introduce my guest. Now, I obviously know exactly what it is that you're sharing online. Tell the wider audience that are listening along today what it is that you share.
Absolutely. So, I am Geo. I'm a witch. I'm based in Glasgow, and I've been online for just slightly over a year, posting some of my some of the traditions that I have and folk practices of Scotland and the wider witchcraft world. And I initially started posting the videos so that my daughter, who is a child, well, she's an adult now, but she flicking through TikTok and Instagram is a normal thing for her. So I started posting some videos so that she could see some of my practices and understand the whys and what it is that she always sees me do around the house.
Hmm.
And people started leaning in and following along. and
So literally, your original audience was actually already inside the building.
she was, yeah, but at that point she was my teenage daughter. So anything
Yep.
Mum says, well, we have a great relationship. You don't always pay any attention to your parents when they speak to you.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to create some sort of little time capsule of my practice, so that if there was ever a time where she needed a bit of guidance from her mum,
Yeah.
and I wasn't physically in the room, or she was getting ready to go off to university, then she was able to have a look back through some of the videos that I'd made, so that she could remember why it is I burned that particular plant in the house, or
Well,
um, that type of thing. So I now have in that space of a year on Instagram, I have about 650,000 daughters following along,
just
you
gonna
guys
just
included.
just gonna say, I mean, that your practices and your mindfulness and your craft, you're reaching. Well, I think the total footprint this morning was nearly a million. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's been quite um, it's been quite eye opening for me, because I've been practicing like this, the way that I practice, for 30 years, and
Really.
I've been doing it quietly at home, just in a kind of domestic setting. There's no high priestess under the moon with a cloak and pointy hat and broom, but I've been practicing folk magic of Scotland and as the kind of wider witchcraft diaspora for 30 years, and it has been one of the greatest surprises of my life that there are so many other people doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think just because I'm not trying to be an internet witch, and I'm not trying to really sell anyone anything, but people have asked for a bit more depth into what it is that I'm doing, and
Hmm.
um, it, the messages more than the numbers have absolutely knocked my socks off about the depth that it's meeting people, and it's just really lovely to see people. It's really lovely to see people uh, communing with nature, I suppose, and understanding that what goes on outside where we think nature is actually happening in the depths of our own bodies, and
Yes. Yeah.
it's just really a lovely thing to watch people grasp that information and think, oh, okay, it's the winter, the plants are resting, I should rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really lovely journey, and I've never thought about the internet as being a place that's particularly joyful.
Well,
The last
again, no, I never did either. If I'm honest, and I'm not saying that your account and what you created, because obviously your journey into your sharing is different to mine. Mine came from a place of frustration. I was a paid, well, until recently, I was a paid high level gardener working in very exclusive properties in very wealthy areas, and this disconnect between what I was doing and what I was trying to tell my customers about, share with them. They just had absolutely no interest whatsoever. They wanted it to look a certain way. They didn't care how much it cost. They didn't care what they had to do to achieve a certain look. And there's me trying
Yeah.
to sort of share my craft and my expertise and decades worth of experience, and it was just so hard. We don't care how much have I got to spend or throw that away. And it was
Yeah.
I just found this complete disconnect between my craft as I classify it to be, and what I was
Yeah.
actually doing. And for me, that disconnect was so strong that I just thought, well, I have to have a voice somewhere. I have to tell someone about all of these things, because what I'm sharing is yeah, I don't have any children. We haven't had any children. And I feel like I need to pass this information on to somebody before it gets lost. And that's how my account, it came from frustration. So it's really lovely to hear that yours came from a place of sort of nurturing and love and the wish to share it with someone. Because again, we're all aware that the younger generation, again, I classify my husband as being younger, although he's the same age as me. If TikTok doesn't tell him it's happening, it doesn't exist a lot. I think a lot. So, and he would quite often turn his screen to me. "Oh, see such and such." Like, I've been saying that to you for 17 years. And you've paid no attention to me whatsoever, and
That's
all of a
brilliant.
sudden, TikTok arrives, and all of a sudden, it's gospel. So
Well,
it's
that's a relationship I was having with my daughter.
okay.
So, but yeah, I think well, that's where, when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, the information that I got was from books and
Hmm.
libraries, and there wasn't an internet connection. And um, I certainly, it took quite a while for me to kind of grasp the fact that the information that I was getting online was as um, relevant to me as
Yeah,
what I was
as
reading in books.
as credible. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that the longer the internet has been around, I'm a child of the 80s, so when I left home in the late 90s, early 2000s, having an internet connection in your home was just a newish thing,
yeah,
and it's come a long way since then. So my daughter doesn't. She reads. She doesn't read the way that I did. She's not scribbling notes in the margins of books.
hmm,
And I just found that, um, it's like mainstream media. People don't get their news from the 6 o'clock news anymore. They get it from scrolling through, TikTok, and
yeah,
journalists have their own accounts. And I think it's just really important that we move with that, because we'll be left behind otherwise. And
yeah.
we have the old information is still relevant information. It's just we have to put it across to people in a way that it's going to resonate with them. And maybe that's what's happened with when your clients who are paying to have a beautiful garden, and the depth of information that comes from horticulture and
Yeah.
understanding the life of plants is can be life changing for
I,
people.
I
And
almost seem to think it might be actually with my clients especially more of a generational thing. There seems to be this gap of a certain age group. I'm very similar age to you. There seems to be a window of people slightly older than us in their sort of 80s, 70s and early 60s. There's this disconnect that all of a sudden think
mhm,
society pushed away from a lot of these natural and grounding practices and actually sort of burying their hands in the soil and growing things. And I suppose after the Second World War, where there's this sort of huge influx of population, and I think a lot of people have become completely disconnected from their environment, and now our generation and the generations behind us are actually pulling back towards much more of
yeah,
and I think your explosion. I mean, this is some massive numbers you've managed to
yeah,
bring
it's
into your
incredible.
following and into the fold and you're talking to. And I think that shows a real hunger from a demographic of people that are really interested in finding some peace, finding some um I don't know what words am I going to try and use here that are correct. That are sort of a grounding
Yeah,
practice and being mindful and actually being present
yeah,
and disconnecting from. And it's again, it sounds strange because you're sharing your craft and your practices on the internet, and we're all trying to disconnect from the internet, but we're
yeah.
using the internet to
It's
reconnect
a
to
bit
other.
absolutely. It's a bit of a paradox, but
Yes, it is. Yeah,
I think the thing that we need to be mindful of is that you um, these things are useful, but we should be using them. They should not be using us.
yeah,
So and it's like when I first started to learn to meditate, I always had that little voice in the back of my head that was like, well, all you're doing is sitting here in the quiet. What use is that to anyone? And I remember reading about, um, do you control your mind or does your mind control you?
Hmm.
And I feel like the internet um, is the same. Do you control what you absorb from the internet, or does the internet control what you absorb from it? And I think we need to be mindful of that.
Oh,
And
goodness me,
you
that's some golden information just there. That's some
know,
24 karat gold information, isn't it? That.
but it's not about we all everything has its nuances, and
Yeah.
if you're settled and stable and grounded in yourself and understand yourself to a depth that only sitting with yourself can manage,
Hmm.
I think that you can access things like the internet and or even stuff like alcohol or things where or online shopping stuff that stuff that if you're not grounded in your own headspace, can take you out of your headspace,
It
and
can,
that's
it can
something.
control you, so you
Yeah,
to actually dip in and out of it for what you're looking for, and then to move away from it. I mean,
yeah,
you mentioned there just about the first time that you started meditating, and that's something that I have really struggled to do, and it's something that I'm personally working on within myself at the moment, is to actually breathe.
yeah.
And I know this sounds like, I mean, we're brought into this world, and it is the very first thing you do when you're born is you take your first breath.
You
But
breathe.
I think
Yeah,
a lot of us actually forget to do it properly, and I know that I've held myself in a certain way for nearly 40 years, not breathing into very deep parts of my body. And I have, over the last year and a half, my audience are aware of the journey that I've been on, spiritually, holistically, through different
yeah,
types of therapy, and letting trauma and pain go that I've carried around in my body. And part of
yeah,
that is I've got a space within the deep. I'm sort of gesturing to it right now. I've got this space deep down in the pit of my stomach, which I don't seem to be able to breathe into, and I am desperately trying to sit and be in and quiet and actually breathe into that space. And the more I do that, the better I feel, and the lighter I feel, and I understand myself, and I can feel myself and move much better. So that's a really, really useful tool. It's not something that everybody does. I think we all carry around and move around at such a speed that I think we actually just forget to sometimes just
yeah.
stop
We
for.
do, and I think another thing that we often do is that we don't recognise when we are in meditative states when we're not actively sitting down to
Yes, yeah,
meditate.
yeah.
I'm sure you'll find yourself in the garden at points when you are gardening. There's nothing else happening in your
Hmm.
mind. You're not chewing over that conversation you had with someone where you should have said this and they should have said that, and
Yeah.
but you're gardening, and that's when we meditate and we concentrate on our breath, it's because our breath is what we always have our breath, regardless of any situation that we're in. It's something where we can place our focus. But when you're doing things within a craft where you can place your whole focus, whether that's um, gardening or creating art or listening to music, if your whole focus is on that one thing, that's a meditative state, and we should always give ourselves a little bit of kudos for achieving those
Yeah.
states where you're fully present in the moment that you're in. It doesn't always have to be about sitting cross-legged with your breathing, breathing, but
Surrounded by your crystals with your incense burning. No, it
absolutely
doesn't
chanting
have to.
om.
It's
um,
funny again. You should say that, because Mark will quite often watch me film a video that's maybe half an hour to an hour long in one take, and I'll quite often. I'm not sure if you've seen any of them, but I quite often bring together collections of plants in a best of collection, and I will. And Mark will say to me, he said, "It's like watching you channel. How do you get this
yeah,
information out of you?" It's like, well, when I find my rhythm, when I'm talking from my heart, when I'm talking literally from the pit of my stomach, and I'm literally doing what I'm meant to do, this is how it comes out of me. And that's when I think you're the that's when the gold comes. And I think sharing your.
absolutely. And that's when you're in flow. And when you're
Yes,
in
yeah.
flow, you're in a meditative state. So,
And
you know,
then I need a digestive biscuit afterwards because I'm so tired.
yes, I get that. I absolutely get that. I've found myself uh, within meditation before, or doing something from a ritual point of view, where I've been doing some kind of deep deep spell work. And when I talk about spell work, I'm really aware that lots of your listeners are not on the magical path.
Oh,
So when I speak,
you'll be surprised because this is something it's something that hopefully through messages that you've received over the last year on your journey on social media, that it's funny that you may not be aware that the frequency that you let out via your channels actually draws your people to you. And I am shocked and humbled at all times by the amount of people that message me saying, Ben, you bring me so much joy. I'm so glad that you share
yeah,
this. You've helped me through grief by focusing on this, or things were really bad, and you shared this story. And I'm very shocked by how many messages I get, and I'm I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that I'm into witchcraft, but I'm a very spiritual person. We have a lot of crystals, we burn a lot of incense, we do meditate, and we do try and ground ourselves. And I do try and be present in my space. And the amount of
mm-hmm.
messages I get, very very simply on those basic levels, are they astonish me because you naturally draw your vibration naturally draws your people to you. And they might be gardeners, but they're there, so the audience is listening. So.
They are absolutely. And I think what I found, you know, your craft is gardening, and
Hmm.
gardening is something that we can watch. You know, we can watch on TV and we can read books about it, and it's taken seriously. And my craft is has been caricaturized over the last few decades, and
Hmm.
it is one of those things that I think one of the biggest draws of my account to people is that they are watching me um, perform ritual with a seriousness rather than a parody, and
Yes.
something that's connected. And that when your understanding of the world is reflected back to you by someone who's not making light of it or making fun of it, then you recognise it, and it feels nicer to be called to that. So I think sometimes when people talk about being a witch, you hear or you think about that, you know, hooked nose, um, uh, pointy hat person with a cauldron. And when I
Yes.
speak about doing spell work, I always have that little ash just above it, because I'm really keen to explain to people what I mean by that. And it is literally sitting with intention and focusing your thought patterns towards a specific outcome for
Yeah.
something. And again, historically, witchcraft has been seen as a bad thing and bad people do it. But I'm a nice person and I do good things in the world. And my thought process about spell work is really giving my desires for an outcome for either myself or for people a physical manifestation in front
Hmm.
of me that I can look at. And so lots of my spell work seeds are planted, literal seeds are planted. So I will breathe over blessings to things to be done, and I'll plant seeds into the ground so that the blessings that I've spoken over the seeds take root and grow. And then my intent on watering that and looking after it and nurturing that plant through its growth cycle helps to nurture the blessing, the request for assistance that goes on. So that when I talk about spell work, it's more from that point of view rather than your, you know, hubble bubble toilet trouble.
and, ca-
um,
and can we talk a little bit? I mean, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that this is something that you have made part of your life for over 30 years. What your journey into this? Could you just sort of let us a little insight about how you started practicing? Was it a sort of an aha moment for yourself, or you came across some literature that inspired you?
Yeah, so the real basis of it is that at 14 years old, I was not trusted by my parents to stay at home during the summer holidays because
Okay.
I didn't have the maturity to take care of myself without burning the house down. So um, I was kind of ordered out of the house with my older sister who had a summer job, and um, I had to just wander around our town centre where we stayed, which sounds a bit grim, but it was a nice place to live, and we knew almost every person. And on the, I don't know, I looked at town centre for days, and I walked into a little shop that I'd never been into before called Bell Book and Candle, and it was a metaphysical shop, and it was the first time at 14 years old, which is about it was about 1995.
Hmm.
Um,
Goodness me,
and
we are exactly the same, yeah, same age.
but at that time, you didn't see shops selling incense and candles and people speaking about witchcraft or anything like that.
Hmm.
So this shop did, and I was just really at 14 years old. I actually found at the time I thought it was really unique that I had these thought processes about wanting to learn to meditate and thinking about energy and looking at Scottish culture and how it was pre-Christian culture in Scotland was very animistic, and it was almost as if when I went into that shop and I got a few books and some posters, and when I spoke to the shopkeeper about Scottish culture, you know, I was a Scottish girl. I lived here and I grew up here, and I had all the little superstitions from my parents and my grandparents alike. And then I was shown some information about pre-Christian Celtic culture and the link that we had to animism, which is the belief that spirit lives in all things, the land, the sea, sky. And our oral tradition of storytelling, where we would, explain seasons and plants and how fruits would bud on a tree through folklore and mythology. And it was like someone had opened a door in a house that I'd lived in my whole life, and shown me another room that I didn't know was there.
Hmm.
And I walked into the door of that room of mythology and animistic tradition and never really looked back, I suppose. Um,
And you never found that you never found that intimidating or an unsafe place to be. You at 14, you were bold enough to sort of walk into that space and feel comfortable
yeah,
there.
but at that time I would never have called it witchcraft.
Yeah,
I didn't really resonate that was the same thing, because at 14 years old, a witch was someone that someone was pretending to be. It was a pointy hat and green skin thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until
I've got visions of Grot Bag pop into my head now.
yeah, oh God, I loved Grotbag. I absolutely loved her.
My American listeners have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. They're all heading off
You
to the
know,
internet to Google Grot Bag. But yeah.
I'm really, really far down on my Instagram page before I started making videos, and I was just putting up pictures. There's a little picture that says "Name yourself and 3 witches," and Grotbags is one of the witches that I put. But yeah, so that thing about the internet connection that I was speaking with you about, when I moved house, well, when I moved out of my family home, I was only 18, and they were giving away mortgages to anyone at that point. So I got a mortgage on my lunch break and bought a flat. And I know it's ridiculous. It was before the 2008 crash. So they were just flippantly handing mortgages hand over fist to 18-year-olds. And I got an internet connection in my flat, and I was, with my thirst for knowledge of some of this stuff, I started reading about the witchcraft trials in Scotland, which were horrific in terms of the population that it affected.
Hmm.
But what I realised from reading about the witchcraft trials was that these were people, predominantly women, but certainly men too, that were being persecuted and villainised because they were practising outside of the religion of the day. which was Christianity.
Yeah.
And the things that they were doing, when you read the accounts of, because this was all legal, there was nothing illegal about the deaths of these people. This was, they'd gone through court proceedings. So the information about what they were being charged with was all written down and documented. And that was the stuff I was doing. That pre-Christian tradition of burning certain plants, or opening windows at New Year and welcoming in spirit to your home.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I put the connection together that actually what I'm doing, if this was 500 years ago, this would be classified as witchcraft. So I started to use the word witch as more of a reclamation of that word that had been used to persecute so many. And in Scotland it was thousands. Like, when we think about the witchcraft trials globally, everyone's head always goes to Salem.
Yes, yeah.
And
I was about to say that I've actually visited Salem. I've visited the graveyards in Salem, and they're a very, very humbling and stark place to go. It's yeah.
They really are, but there was I think just slightly over 20 people accused or killed in the witchcraft trials in Salem over a period of a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And in Scotland, that lasted for over 170 years, and there
Wow.
was 4,000 people killed.
Yeah.
So, and in terms of how big Scotland was, in terms of population at that time, we're only a country at the moment of about 5.5 million.
Yeah.
So back then, in the 1600s, we were a very, very small population, and 4,000 women and men were killed for the sake of not practicing the religion of the day. Take the supernatural side of witchcraft out of it. It is literally you're practicing a folk tradition that connect you to the land and connect you to that thing that some people call it God and some people call it the divine, but that mystery of what the universe is, that thing that's driving us all forward. And that's part of what I do without having to go into a church to follow the rules. And that's exactly the reason why these women were persecuted back then. So my use of the word witch is absolutely almost like a form of resistance, but definitely a reclamation of that to continue my practice of what I do. So and it's one of these things that the businessification and the of witchcraft and being a witch is just a continuation over of that time in our lives where the word witch was seen as a bad thing. And I think people, especially online now, are understanding that there's a depth to that word that is more, it feels like more of a remembering than it does trying to fit into the rules of other religions or spiritual thought processes.
Yeah.
And it's all very individual. So the way I practice as a witch is not the way that another witch will practice, and neither of us are right and neither is it are wrong. It's just how we do it. It's a connectedness to
what feels right.
Yeah, and it's something greater than us, which is just it's a lovely thing to feel. And I've never. I didn't grow up in a particularly religious family, so I've never had any kind of triggering trauma through religion.
Mm-hmm.
But I still, like most people on this planet, you get to a point in your life where you're looking for something, or you're trying to find the connection to something that's greater than you.
Yeah.
And this is the path that I have found to find that. So it's a lovely way to live. I'd recommend it.
Yeah. Well, I also need to extend my personal thanks as well For I mean, obviously you share many of your practices in a really lovely way online, which again, much like your voice speaking to you here, is very soothing. It's very nurturing. It's very grounding. It feels very safe when I watch your videos. But I need to thank you for your practice as we headed over into the brand new year. Your 13 magical nights practice that you shared
Yeah.
was one of the things that really resonated with myself and my husband, and we carried out the 13 magical nights. And I did share with my husband, and he was keen to share all of his with me because Mark loves to share. And I'm in my character being a Tory, and I am a Taurus through and through. Me, I keep everything quiet. I don't like to share too much. But I did share with him the last one that was left, because obviously I'll quickly explain the practice that you write down 13 things onto small pieces of paper. Night by night, we burnt those over 12 nights, leaving just one at the end, which obviously was chosen by chance. And the trusting the universe to actually help you and guide you with the other 12 that you've burnt and sent off into the atmosphere, leaving you with one which would feel much more doable and achievable. And my last one was, I felt, the most difficult, but
Hmm.
leaving my me with just one out of 12 possible aspirations or goals or almost sort of wishes for the year felt so doable. And that practice for me has really allowed me to let go of so many negative connotations about myself, hang-ups I
That's
have
really
about my physical experience and my physical being and the way I look. And I was left with the simple one: I am enough.
oh
And it for me was just and it was just again like someone has switched on a
oh
light. It's like if I can just be enough for myself, if I can just hold myself being
yeah,
enough, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever it might be. And for me, it
yeah,
encompassed many things. And for me, that was just. And Mark held me at that point. He said that was a lovely one. I said, well, I was dreading getting it. I was hoping it was going to be something more tangible, something more physical that I
yeah,
could go out and change or do or sculpt, but just the simple one to be left with that I was enough
yeah.
was just so I want to thank you for that, because that was for
Oh
me really helped me at a time at the beginning of the year was hard work again, it often is.
yeah.
But yeah, so that was a lovely practice.
I'm so pleased that that resonated with you. That comes from a Germanic folk tradition. It's the 12 magical nights,
Uh-huh.
and it's done over at different points of the year through it's kind of more, it kind of changes, and it's a kind of over Advent from Christmas Day onwards. So the solstice is a really important part of my practice. I follow a thing called the Celtic Wheel of the Year, or the Wheel of the Year, where we follow solstices and equinoxes and have fire festivals in between.
Yeah.
And that practice for the solstice, because we're in the depth of winter, it's the darkest point that we're going to get to. And it's just such a beautiful thing to bring yourself into a bit of ritual every
Hmm.
night. And it's not every night for the rest of your life, it's every night for 12 or 13 nights, and
Yeah.
just sitting down for the time that it takes for a bit of paper to burn. Um, really is, and I think a lot of people find from that, uh, just even the practice, not even what you got at the end of it, what you were left with, but the practice of sitting down, carving a bit of time out for yourself, even just for a few minutes every day, really helped people recognise that sitting in ritual um, is life changing.
Yeah, and and
um,
and and the very very basic act of just even with a candle setting fire to something very small, and actually, I
yeah,
mean, I've done the practice before when I've had when I've gone to the sea and I've named, for instance, a problem or something that seems unsolvable to a rock or a shell and thrown it into the water.
yeah,
And when I've had Reiki and it's been suggested that you put negative feeling into a stick or a stone and you go and bury it somewhere or throw it in the water and wash it
yep,
away, that sort of release instantly and just letting go of
yeah,
things like, especially for me, negative body image or negative thoughts
absolutely,
about achieving things or not being quite where having not quite achieved what you wanted to get to, or not being in a place you wanted to be, or not having as much money as
yeah,
you thought you should have. Those sort of allowing it to burn and disappear into the atmosphere I suppose, I mean, the word, I mean, it's a religious word, but it's very cathartic, isn't it? It's very,
It is,
it allows you to
but
let
that's
it go.
yeah, but that's when I was speaking earlier about performing spells. It's really just ritual,
Hmm.
and it's giving you a tangible thing to do, literally in front of you. You know, in front of your face, there's a tangible thing that you can do
Yeah.
to help release the emotion and the thought process and the feeling of a thing. And sometimes that's what we need. You know, like I'm sure that you've had times where you've been you know, mentally frustrated about something, and then going and performing manual tasks in your garden, weeding and hands in the dirt and getting rid of stuff and making things fresh, has it made you feel better
Yes.
mentally?
Yeah.
And nothing, your thought process, you've not sat down in therapy, no one's talked you through the thought processes, but the physical act of clearing in your garden has helped with the act of clearing your mind. And when I perform I perform ritual every single day. It's just little small acts of ritual that you mentioned about, you
Hmm.
know, speaking your worry to a stone and casting it into the sea. But um, every single day, I light a candle, and that candle's not just for being lit. There's a purpose behind it. So I try
I'm
to.
gonna have to ask, if you don't mind me interrupting, Gio, where are you getting all these beautiful candles from? Because I've seen you light calendars, all sorts of different cut, green and red, and some white spirally ones, which are really lovely. Where are you finding these
Yeah.
beautiful things from? Are they locally, or
But
you find them
yeah,
online?
I try and buy things locally where I can. I'm vegan, so I don't use beeswax, and I do see lots of lovely beeswax
Hmm.
candles that I love. So my kind of, I don't get too. I buy soy candles where I can, just because they're a bit more ethically produced. But
Yeah.
for taper candles, they have to generally be paraffin, which aren't um, you know, they're not the best. They're not the best for burning, but they're beautiful. So I try to buy smaller ones rather than
Yeah.
have a big old candle. And so the spiral candles that you see are from a shop that I think is pretty much a global shop. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but it's Saustrain Green. It's like a
Okay.
little. It's a shop that's from Amsterdam that has um, I mean, it's a witch's paradise. It's got everything in it. It's got jars, it's got herbs, it's got
I'm going to have
spices,
to ask
it's
you to
got.
send me a link after we finish this
I
conversation. And I've
will.
got a feeling it's going to cost me a lot of money, because I think Mark
Well,
will probably go absolutely crazy.
the only thing I can kind of compare it to is a very, very small version of like an IKEA, but
Okay.
for witchy things. But it's a beautiful shop. There's arts and crafts things in it, and and you have to physically walk around it in a particular direction. There's, you know, it's really lovely. It's a glorious little shop. But they have them. I first saw it in Amsterdam, and then one opened in Glasgow, and then I saw another one in Berlin, and I had a look online, and they are all over the place. So I didn't realise it was a chain, but I think it was set up by two sisters.
Uh-huh.
But it's written in a language that's not English, so I'm pronouncing it as Soft Stream Green, but I'm not entirely sure if that's
Okay,
how
well,
it's pronounced.
we're up in Glasgow in just about 4 or 5 weeks, so we'll have to make sure that we find this shop, and
Yeah, well, we
I'll
have
have to
two
make
of
sure that I
them.
have a credit card with me.
Beautiful. It's more like there's like a section of it that's kitcheny, a section of it that's candly, a section of it that's like wool and fabric craft, and then a section that's paint. So it's a nice shop to go. And then homewares. There's lots of different things to it, but we do love the candles. So
Lovely.
I go there once a month, and because I burn those candles every day, so we get the stock wears down quite quickly in my house.
So you were saying about that you built sort of ritual and practice into your everyday life. How does that
Yeah,
sort of blend? How does that blend into your sort of professional life? And you travel a little bit for work, don't you?
I do. Yes, I have. But so the thing about my practice is that I don't see it as something that's separate from my life as a
Hmm.
mother and a employee and a sister and a daughter and a wife. But, we have all of these roles that we have to fill in life. But the heart of me is that is who I'm a person who practices ritual.
Yeah.
So I do that when I'm traveling. I do it when I wake up in the morning before I go to bed at night. When I'm walking the dog. When I'm gardening. When I do all of those things. So there's not really a time that I think when we think about ritual, because we have grown up in a society where ritual happens in churches or temples or outside of the home.
Hmm.
That
In almost a
we,
in a very disconnected way, isn't it? It's a very sort of
yeah,
aloof and unachievable way.
and it's something that someone else does and you observe, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so,
You
but
don't participate and you observe.
yeah, and ritual for me is not that. Ritual happens when I turn on a light switch in my house and I thank my home for the light, or when I make a coffee in the morning and I stir a silver spoon into my coffee with a blessing for the day,
Yeah.
or when I walk the dog in the park and I take a handful of peanuts for the crows and give them as offering to the animal spirits that are around me. So it might, there's my neighbours see me walking around and they all know I feed the crows, but they think I'm just feeding the crows. But they don't realise it's an offering to
Yeah.
the nature spirit, and that's just so. When I travel for work, I always when I travel I've got this little silver spoon, that in Scottish culture silver was used as a conduit for blessing. So we would use it to make water be ready for blessing and consecration and
Yeah.
healing even. So and it's because it's seen as this pure substance. So I have this little sterling silver spoon that I say a blessing over, and I'll stir it into water or coffee or whatever I'm drinking. And when I'm in an airport for work, I have that in my pocket. So I turn getting a peppermint tea from Pret into ritual.
Yeah.
So, so there's things that you can do to honour yourself, your body, the nature around you. I could be standing in a concrete square in the middle of Glasgow with no trees, plants in sight, and still connect to nature there. Just by thought process, or having had that connection to ritual at all times, and I know the way to spirit, and I know the way to connect to nature, regardless of where I am.
Okay.
So it's but that's just because it's an everyday thing. It's whereas some people might listen to music, and the music that I listen to, I use that as offering to spirit. So, for example, at my ancestor altar, I've got pictures of both my grandparents who are crossed, and my gran. There's certain music that my gran loves, and I will play that music in the morning when I have a coffee as an offering to her. So
Yeah.
even just my morning music in the house there's intention behind it. That I suppose that connectedness that you felt during the 13 Magical Nights practice is a connectedness that I strive for 24 hours a day,
Hmm.
365 days a year,
Yeah.
and I do it through all things. So
It's also
yeah,
interesting to hear you mention about giving blessing and offering to your home as a spirit, because
mm,
people look at us as if we're bark raving mad when we tell them that our home is incredibly old. It's 327 years old this year.
yeah,
Um, we have two spirits here. We have actually the house, and the land it sits on has its own energy, its own spirit.
yeah,
We have a spirit that lives within the house who is a past resident here,
yeah,
called Willem, and we felt him and we have talked to him. But we also have the practice of asking our home to help us with certain things as well. And I'm sat in an addition to the house that we made about 5 6 years ago. It's a wooden structure that we added, and within the fabric of that wood, there is a note from myself and from Mark asking our home to help us with certain things and certain
Mm,
goals that benefit our home, and we feel our home as a spirit, and we feel very much custodians of this place and the land that it sits on. And when we sit in
yeah,
meditation and when we sit in quiet, we can feel, both of us, is not just me, we can both feel the strength of the land beneath us and the spirit and our connectivity to the place that we sit. And a lot of people look at us as if we are absolutely crazy. I mean, they can connect more to the fact that we think there might be some sort of ghosty spirit here, Willem, who is
yeah,
a mischievous soul, who has played with me on several occasions. And people seem to be able to relate more to that than they can actually the physical house having some sort of being.
yeah,
But we believe, I mean, we've invested large amounts of time, large amounts of money, large amounts of energy, our own sort of energy, poured our heart and soul
yeah.
into the house that we live in, and we believe it lives and breathes around us. It cares for us, and we care for it. And yeah, people think we're crazy when I say that.
Yeah, I have full agreement with you. I don't like that. The spirit of place is, one of the key factors of Scottish folk tradition, and that
Hmm.
animistic worldview that everything has spirit, and your
Yeah.
home is absolutely no different. That the house I live in now I live in a Glasgow tenement flat, which is like a kind of, I don't know, a big sandstone flat, and it's 120 plus years old.
Hmm.
And we moved here from a brand new build house that was built in a field, and we'd lived in that. There was lots of other houses around about us, but it was a brand new build house that we lived in, and we'd lived in that house for nearly over 15 years, and I knew the energy of that house really well because it was it got to know me as I got to know it.
Yeah.
As its energy started to build, my energy was there at the house, and there was no introduction really needed. We grew together in that space. And when I moved from that house and moved here to this 120-year-old house, I kind of came in with all my cleansing, smoke burning, throwing water around the place, and this house did not appreciate that
Ours
one
did.
bit.
Ours didn't like it either.
Yeah, it did not appreciate it one bit, and I really had to be very humble about. I think just because my knowledge of a house spirit was that it worked alongside you, because
Hmm.
that's what the spirit of that land did. But this house has been here through wars, through depression, through it's had the residents that lived here have been from all walks of life. They've done all sorts of weird and wonderful things to the physical building.
Yeah.
And here we came in and we were like, we're knocking that wall down and opening this bit up.
Yeah.
And the house was just like, no, 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 no.
Yeah,
So,
ours resisted us too, and I can remember having a very stern conversation with it and saying, "Look, we don't mean you any harm, but if I don't do X, Y, and Z, you will fall down. You will in such a
yeah,
state that you may think you're okay, but I'm trying to safeguard you here, and yeah,
yeah,
you can fight with me or you can work with me. I don't mean you any harm. Please trust the vision." And it relaxed a little bit, and I backed off just a little bit, and yeah, it's
yeah. Well, I just had to have a full apology because I was the first person in this house. My husband works away, my daughter was at school, and I was the first person to open the door when we got the keys. And
okay.
I came in with smoke cleansing and
You've arrived.
yeah, there's a witch lives here now, and it just was like, sit down, pet. I'm 125 years old, whippersnapper, and
Seen the likes of you before, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So but now the relationship I have with this place is absolutely glorious. It knows without a shadow of a doubt that we are here to protect it,
Yeah.
and I know without a shadow of a doubt that it is here to protect me.
Yeah.
And we've
Again,
renovated it, so It's one of those.
We strongly believe we don't understand why we ended up here, because most people will say because place was such a journey. Even my mum and dad, I brought my mum and dad to see it on our second view. Mum said, "What on earth are you doing? What do you want to buy that old, excuse my language, shithole for? It's an
Yeah.
absolute mess." I said, "I don't know. Something's drawing me to this place, and I can see the bones and the underneath." There was a caravan that needed cutting up. The garage had collapsed. I mean, the garden was
Mhm.
overgrown. The fences had fallen down. There was a hole in the roof. It had no kitchen. I mean, the list went on and on. And we strongly believe, I don't know why, but this place, this earth, this garden, this house was where we were supposed to be. All avenues of our life before here, the things that we bought, the things we thrifted, the places
Mhm.
we visited, collected, they all were meant to be in this place. They were all meant to be here. And all we needed
Yeah.
to do is listen to the drawer and actually sort of march to the drum with you, that's what we say. And we ended up at this spot. And we feel that more now than ever.
Yeah. That's exactly.
The roots of ourselves are here.
Yeah. That's it. I feel exactly like I feel like I've come home to this
Hmm.
house. Like I didn't. Um. I don't. Every other house I'd lived in before here, I felt like I'm living here for the moment. I'm living here now, but I'll be living somewhere else. This is my family. This house. This is the bricks of this place. The spirit inside it. We are kin, and it's a lovely place. We actually, when we first started to renovate, after I'd apologised, I was asking for the house for a sign from it that it was okay with what we were doing.
Hmm.
Like just, and we were doing things slowly. There was, structural things that had to be taken care of, and electricity and plumbing stuff that wasn't that my husband took care of. Nothing that was pretty that I wanted to deal with. And we came to reinstating some fireplaces that had been boarded up, and there was a radiator in front of where all the fireplaces had been boarded up. So there's quite a few it's an Edwardian property, so there's quite a few fireplaces. And I'd said to my husband, before we'd unblocked anything, I'm going to go pick the tiles for the fire surround to make sure that matches the decor in the room that we wanted. So in one room I picked some kind of green tiles, in another room I picked a kind of inky blue tile, and then a burgundy tile for the third room. And as we took the walls away to reveal the fireplace, so we were absolutely, there was a hole where the fireplace was, there was nothing there. But the hearth was still there because it's an Edwardian hearth, so it was just under the flooring.
Hmm.
And in each of the rooms was green tiles, like inky blue tiles and red tiles. And I was like, oh, okay, we're on the same path. Like we know what we're doing here with one another. So, so at that point, I was absolutely aware that what I needed for the house and what the house needed for it, we were both singing from the same hymn sheet. But there was no way I could have known that's the colour of the tiles were. And it's not
No.
that I think that, and it's not that I think that I foresaw that. I think that the house impressed that on me
Yeah.
and
And
said,
that's just what naturally felt right.
yeah, this
Yeah.
room's blue, that room's red, that room's green, that's the tiles to pick. And that's what I went off to do. So, but then that's what opening yourself up to spirit through ritual and through recognizing those little nuances within changes in energy. That's the type of communication that can spring from that, and you guys, those people who think you're crazy because you think your house is spirit, aren't in conversation with spirit in that way, the same way you are. So it's like trying to explain to a blind person what red looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's it's a hard thing to do. It's a sense that we all have. We all have that additional sense of that knowing.
Hmm.
The more you work it, the more you understand its limitations
Yeah.
and how you can expand it.
It's funny. It's funny that you should mention it, because that particular thing is one of the things that I originally went to therapy and to have Reiki to find. It's really quite funny that you sort of mentioned that, because that's one of the things that I headed to personal therapy for, and even had Reiki for, that over a period of, I don't know, about 10, 15 years, that the voice that I had in myself, my compass, I didn't seem to be able to find it anymore. It seemed to be buried in the modern world, and in the noise of, I suppose, of depression or anxiety, or just being weighed down by general day-to-day things. And
Hmm.
my desire to hear that voice again, and actually be able to follow that compass, was my biggest driving force about sort of actually my journey. So it's really interesting you to for you to mention that's something that we all have. And most people, the more you tune into it, the easier this kind of practice becomes.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I tell you, when I worked quite a corporate job, and I was on a training uh, thing quite maybe about 15 years ago now, and they had us in this meeting room, and we were watching they asked us to watch a bit. It was talking about perception and understanding your staff, and these different things. And they had us in a room where we were watching a video, and the person on the training program said to us, "I'm going to get you to watch a video. We're going to ask you lots of questions about it because we want to see what your perception skills are like. So pay attention to the video, watch really closely. It's going to be a game of people dressed in black and people dressed in white playing basketball. And we're going to ask you questions about the video when it's finished. It goes on for 2.5 minutes." So we watched this video, and I'm paying attention, and I'm counting the amount of times the ball's passed, and I'm counting the amount of people dressed in black and the amount of people dressed in white, and I'm looking even at their shoes because maybe they're going to ask me questions about their shoes. And really pinpoint focusing my attention in on all of the detail of the screen that was happening in front of me. And it stopped, and they said, "How many times did the ball pass?" And someone answered a question. And I said, "Oh no, it was this many times. I counted that." And then they said, "At what minute in the video did the gorilla walk on screen?" And we were all like, a gorilla? And they went back and played the same video, and a man dressed in a gorilla costume walked into the middle of the screen and then walked off the other side. And none of us saw it. None of us saw it. We weren't, because we were pinpoint focused on the detail
Yes,
of
yeah,
what was happening round about us. And we weren't just looking at the picture as a whole. And that, I think, that was one of those things that resonated with me from a practice point of view. And that wasn't a witchcraft related workshop that I was on, but that changed my practice, because I thought, oh, okay, I'm looking for the details here. I'm looking for the very specifics. There's a much bigger thing happening, and I
yeah.
need to be able to open all my senses up to understand the nuance of everything around. And that, that was a corporate training program that was teaching people to be more perceptive.
Yeah.
So those things impact everybody, and understand, just trying to work all those perceptions and understand that they all work in connection with one another is that changed my practice, because I always knew I had some. So we call it, you've heard of clairvoyance, where someone has clear sight.
Yes.
Clairvoyance means clear sight. Clairaudience means they have clear hearing, and clear cognizance means that you just have a clear understanding. And I've really worked on my clear cognizance as part of my craft of just, when we all do it, we all say, "I knew that was going to happen,"
Yeah.
but not being dumbfounded by it, just being like, "Well, I knew that was going to happen."
Yeah.
That's and welcoming that understanding into your day, that's not an unusual thing. That's something that you can perceive, and you should perceive it when you do. Like, you pay attention when there's a knowing of you. Like, you think, "Oh, I know that's going to be that," and that for me is honestly what this last year has been. My 12 magical nights practice last year, so on the solstice of 2024, the little piece of paper that I had left was that I wanted to find or walk towards joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way that I wanted myself to do that was that I would be saying no to something that didn't feel joyful and saying yes to stuff that did. And the online stuff was joyful. It felt cringy. It felt really
Well,
cringy because,
apparently, as a content creator, that's where the magic happens. But
well,
allowing yourself to have that cringe factor and not recoil and make yourself physically sick is difficult. But yeah, it's
yeah.
you've got to lean
I,
into it.
and I don't watch my videos back. I
Nor do I.
record it, I
And,
edit it, and I,
no offense, I won't listen to this conversation either. I will enjoy the conversation for what it was, and I won't listen to it ever
yeah.
again.
So that's that for me was um, my 13 magical nights last year was an invitation to lean into my knowing. I
Yeah.
know if that feels right, I'm walking towards it. If it doesn't feel right, then no thank you. I don't
And
want to do it.
And again,
And that's
the difficulty is understanding that a lot of people feel that letting things go and saying no means they miss out on things. And actually, it's not. It's a realization that actually saying no, if something doesn't bring you joy or bring you enrichment or benefit, or you simply don't want to, actually, you're leaving the door open for an experience that does bring you joy, does bring you happiness, does bring you love or enlightenment. It's and just waiting, and the things that will naturally are meant for you will naturally find you. And again, that's one of the largest things I've struggled to do, is actually to sit still and
mhm.
allow my blessings and my opportunities and my new pathways to actually find me, to stop running around the universe, stop running around
Yeah.
the world looking for things, when actually, if
Yeah.
I sit still, the things that are meant to find me will
We'll
actually
find
just
you.
come towards me. And
Yeah, it's
the,
hard.
the,
It's
the
hard to hit a moving target.
yeah. The beginning of the year of the fire horse has already found me with. I know we're only I don't know, we're 36 hours in, and we already have some amazing things that have happened over the last 36 hours that I would not have been even
Yeah.
open to if I was running around like I was this time last year.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. I think that but that's again. I've not heard many people speaking about when the year of the snake happened last year. I wasn't hearing people talk about, oh, we're going to shed lots of things this year,
Hmm.
and then the year previous that there weren't many people online. Well, maybe I wasn't looking for it because I wasn't really online last year, but um, it's so nice to see people understanding that there's an energy shift.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know that the energy shifts are happening all the time, but the fire horse sounds like a beautiful energy shift to lead into. So people are really drawn to it, which is nice. But those
Yeah.
energy shifts are happening around about us all the time.
Yeah.
I have a little series of videos that I posted about daily energy shifts and about how the Monday is the moon's day and it's a day of emotion. Tuesday is named for Mars, which is a day of action.
Yeah.
Wednesday is named for, well, it's actually named for Odin's day, but Odin and Wednesday are both ruled by Mercury, which is the day of communication. So each of the days that we have, tomorrow is Thursday. Thursday is Jupiter, which is expansion.
Yeah.
Friday is for Freya, which is the goddess of love, or Venus. So each of those days has a little energy shift in it. So I try to schedule my days so for example, today I'm speaking to you and it's a Wednesday, and that
Hmm.
was by design because on Wednesdays they are good for communication. So it's a good day to talk to people on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Um, Yesterday I had days where I have lots of admin to do and follow up on things that should have been done because Tuesday is a day for direct action.
See,
Um,
I've always found Tuesday for myself is the day of opportunity.
oh, really?
Things always, and traditionally over the last 5 or 6 years, things have naturally landed at my feet on a Tuesday. And
Yeah.
I remember saying that before my dad retired, I was working with my dad, and I used to say, no, positive Tuesday, wonderful things are going to happen today, and the phone would go, or a message would come, or an email would come, and yesterday wasn't any different. Yesterday,
That's good. But
yeah,
but but then those are days of direct action, and if your direct action that day is that good things are going to come
yes,
to
yeah,
you,
yeah,
then that's the day. That's the day that you do it. So those little energy shifts that we feel through the year happen through the day. They happen through the week. They
hmm
happen when the moon is full and when the moon
Yeah.
is new. They happen when dawn arrives and when dusk comes. And we should, and I think that's probably the biggest part of my practice is trying to live in cycle with those energy shifts.
Yeah.
That's what being a witch. That's what being a witch is at its
Yeah.
core to me. In Scottish culture, we our day didn't. This pre-Christian culture, our day began when the sun went down. So we didn't. A lot of times you'll see festivals, and they'll say, oh, it's the festival. So for example, we've just had in Bulk, and it's always it's on the 1st of May, the 1st of February, but also the 31st of January, depending on how you celebrate. But that's because in Scottish culture, we would have that day began when the sun went
When
down.
sun down in yeah.
Yeah. So of an evening, when the sun at dusk. So sometimes in Scotland at this time of year, dusk can be quite. Certainly over Christmas, it was at 3 p.m. Dusk began, but later on in the summer, it's going to be light at 11 o'clock at night here.
Yeah.
So dusk starts at different points, but I light a little birthday candle at dusk, and I think about what my day will consist of in the waking hours and what I need to do and what energy I need to bring for that day. And I think about possible obstacles that might be in the way and how I'm best to overcome them. And it takes about maximum 10 minutes for a birthday candle to burn down to nothing. So I give myself that 10-minute window every single night. And then when I go to bed, I've had the thought process already, so I let that permeate through me in bed at night. And then when I wake up first thing in the morning, I'm ready to go. So that's culturally, that's what we would have practiced before. We would have started the day with rest.
Yeah.
We would have started the day in darkness. And I speak about that quite frequently in the thought process of germination in plants. A plant generally will not germinate in bright daylight. You have to bury it and cover it.
Yeah.
And put it into darkness. Some plants need like frost. They need to be cold before they start to germinate. So growth very rarely happens in a comfortable position.
No.
Growth happens. Someone actually on my page last week posted this saying. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it absolutely, like, my jaw kind of dropped with it. And we were talking about how if you ask a seed what it feels like to germinate, it is cracking and destroying and breaking up. So there's times in our life when it feels like our world is falling apart around about us, but that's what is required for growth.
Yeah.
And so you can always find a metaphor or something to make sense of your current situation in nature. And that's always a real comfort to me.
Well, I'm smiling from ear to ear because there was a conversation that was held in our household over the weekend that was very, very similar to what you just said about that seed growing and cracking. And I said, I don't understand how, and I did say this to Mark, I said, I don't understand how much strength and so much positivity and so much growth can come from a point of fracture, of breaking, of negativity, of something bad, and then you can literally turn it around. And there's a dance song that I'm listening to at the moment that it seems to sum up my entire life, and it's a song called I Run, and it's really frantic. It's a really heavy dance track, but the song is about catching your breath and then moving forward in a different direction and really sort of pushing everything. I'm waving my hands now, but literally go from one point, literally going off completely in the different direction. And I said that song inspired me to say that to Mark on Saturday night. I said, I don't understand I can identify a place within my journey that there was a fracture, a break, something happened, and then I've literally built my entire world around it by moving in a different direction. And so that comment about that seed growing in
your seed
sort of,
cracked and it sent out roots.
and then off it's gone. I've really, Gio, I've honestly, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. But I'd like to wrap things up because I'm aware that you probably need to get on with something. But is there just to share with the audience? Is there any small steps that that people could integrate into their daily life that could see them moving sort of small practice of witchcraft or mindfulness or just simply being in quiet. Is there any sort of small steps you could give people just to sort of start that process if they were at the very, very beginning and just sort of tentatively looking at stuff online or reading literature? Is there something that you could do, sort of you could suggest they start with?
Of course. So I'm a great believer in that the word spell comes from writing. So when you
Hmm.
write something down, we are breathing it into life. And journaling is one of these things that you can write pages and pages and pages,
Yeah.
or you can write a sentence once per day. So I take a moment at any point in your day to sit with yourself for a few minutes and think what it is that you need for peace that day, or for growth, or for wherever you are, if it's not comfortable, what it is that you need, and write that thing down like it's already happened, just in your phone, on a piece of paper. You don't have to keep it or burn it or you give it to the universe, but you write it. When you write something down in the present tense, like it has already happened.
Hmm.
I am happy. I am physically strong. It doesn't have to be profound. Just something. Write a sentence down and read it to yourself 3 times, and sit with it for 30 seconds even. Affording yourself that time on yourself, if it's 30 seconds or 30 minutes, making sure that you carve out just a small piece of time to draw your attention to where you are, what you want, and where you're going is a life-changing thing for you. Meandering through life with your eyes closed is the biggest disservice that you'll ever do yourself. And
Yeah.
looking at your situation for what it is without casting any judgment on it, it just is what it is. And if you're enjoying it, let that continue. And if you're not, put things in place to change it. And it doesn't need to be monumental change. It can just be small changes that over time, if you feel unhappy and you're every single day you write I am happy, it might be difficult to understand how that can lead there, but you're setting yourself up to find happiness for the rest of that day.
Yeah.
Even in small things, birdsong, leaves falling, you're looking for happiness. It's
Yeah.
like that. It's like that gorilla moment. If you don't know that it's out there and you're not specifically looking for it, you will never see it.
No.
So if you write something in the present tense, you're prepping your mind to see it, and it will come to you as you need it. So,
Just like that little, I don't know if you saw it, just like that little wren that I disturbed in our garden just a couple of days ago that ended up at my feet and looked up at me. I thought, well, you're looking a bit strange. What have I disturbed? And then I looked up and he built a whole nest in the middle of a reef on our shed door. And it's, oh, I have disturbed you. I do apologise. And it, again, if I hadn't just given myself that 10, 15 seconds to stand and put my back
yeah,
to the shed and look at the garden I had been working in all afternoon, it's like, oh, okay, I've been out here all day and I hadn't noticed you. And then,
yeah,
yeah, here you are, and you're a bit disgruntled with me. Okay, I'll move away. And oh, goodness me, your nest is absolutely beautiful. So yeah, it's just giving
yeah.
yourself
But and
15,
then there
20,
to
30
connect.
seconds.
Yeah, to connect. Just
Yeah,
connect any way you can. But if you can't think of a way to connect, feel how you're feeling and write down how you want to feel,
yeah.
as it's already happened.
Wonderful, wonderful advice, Geo. Honestly, I've smiled from ear to ear for our entire conversation today. Thank you so much for being so generous with your
No
time.
problem.
If you're li-
Thank you for asking to speak to me.
No, not at all. For those that don't already follow you, please do head over to that Glasgow Witch on Instagram and on TikTok, and give your account some love and some follow, and yeah, get involved. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
I can't
Not
thank
a problem.
Geo
I'll talk to you
enough for
again soon. Take good
participating
care
in the
now.
Okay. Bye
podcast.
now.
I
Bye.
had a wonderful time talking to her, and I honestly could have spoken to her for hours and hours and hours on end. Next time I'm in Glasgow, we really must make time to meet up if she's free. She's actually embarking on a very similar journey to me and writing her very first book. So I wish her all the best with that over the coming weeks and months, and a release of that in the near future. Next week, the Gardener Ben podcast is staying closer to home, with a conversation recorded just a few weeks ago at a local business. I'm actually off to Chestnut and Cherry Tree Nurseries to catch up with some team members from the charity Plants and Minds. They offer therapeutic horticulture and meaningful occupation, with the aim of restoring well-being to people that have been impacted by mental health conditions. I use Cherry Tree Nurseries regularly as a commercial gardener, as it still has a wonderfully traditional A to Z of shrubs, trees and perennials, which for someone like me is really easy to shop. However, the story behind the business and the wider good it does within our local community is much more impactful and much more meaningful. So join me next week when I'm joined by a couple of team members from Plants and Minds. The Gardener Ben podcast is brought to you proudly in association with Peterbilt's Roses, winner of 30 Chelsea Gold medals and creating timeless roses since 1968. Go online and shop at www.peterbiltsroses.com and make sure that you're following along on Instagram and TikTok. I'll see you all again next week, and until then, happy gardening.